There were a couple things that Woj said that caught my attention during free agency.
Brooklyn, listen, they intend to try to get back, something of a historic haul. They look at what the Clippers had to pay for Paul George. They look at what the Lakers had to pay for Anthony Davis. They want more than that.
But first, we gotta go through some history lessons, as what we're seeing with Kevin Durant and the market stalling is not a pure coincidence. It's not happened by pure accident. First, we gotta break down Anthony Davis, how he left New Orleans, because of course, it did remind a lot of people of one key fundamental principle.
The entire NBA was reminded of the difference a top-level talent can make with Toronto.
I always love talking about my Raptors, and Kawhi Leonard, man, did he make us a championship team as soon as he showed up in Toronto. Obviously, the trade itself wasn't too big of a trade compared to the ones we've seen in the last couple of years, but Kawhi Leonard, he got the job done, and he wanted to bring a buddy of his along for his journey.
Who is the NBA's MVP?
Clearly, Giannis.
We all know who the MVP was in 2019, but many forget that Paul George was one of the finalists.
Nothing but respect, excuse me, for the Greek freak. Not taking anything away from him. But Paul George is my MVP thus far.
And what Sam Presti did during that offseason, orchestrating what I think is the most groundbreaking trade to date, because the effects of it are still being felt to this day. And I'll tell you, the market, man, I'm telling you, it never became the same as soon as that trade got up. And the Clippers, they may look like the clear winners of this trade, but in a couple of years' time, things might look different.
Awkward timeline of events that led to the Thunder trading their franchise player, the guy that had spent 11 years in Oklahoma City, and it really started back with Paul George's trade request.
But yeah, the Anthony Davis trade that happened, where the Lakers ended up with a pivotal piece to a championship team in 2020, well yeah, that ended up panning out for them. And obviously, Anthony Davis in the bubble looked like a top 5 player in the league. I mean, the Lakers, congrats to them. They really did it. But guess what? OKC was still scheming, and they were still pulling some trades off. Chris Paul now being one of the key parts of that Westbrook trade. I mean, of course, they were going to eventually deal him off as well, even though he put this Thunder team on his back, led them to the playoffs. Presti wasn't done making deals. He was out there to get more picks.
We're talking about, what, 17 draft picks they have in their
17.
coffers right now? I mean, that's an absurd amount, but look at what you saw. The last GM, I think, to do this so successfully was Danny Ainge.
And of course, other teams have done this before and are still actively doing this to this day. But to hit the reset button the way the Thunder have, it's unprecedented. I mean, at this level, the entire league was paying attention and seeing what the Thunder were doing. Even though they weren't winning games, they were cashing in on the potential of the future prospects that were coming into the league. And boy, were they cashing in.
In the next 5 drafts, they have 2 first-round picks on Wednesday night, and then as you go through the next 4 or 5 years, they have no fewer than 3 first-round picks.
But what does this say about the market? That there are buyers willing to engage in these talks as well, though. There are teams that see what the Thunder are doing and are saying, okay, I'll take some of that burden off of you, and I'll take in some of these stars that you've got, so that we get the chance to potentially win a championship, so that we could potentially create a dynasty of our own. You're thinking about 6 years from now, we're thinking about today. And really, this symbiotic relationship that we're seeing between both buyers and sellers is really what makes these blockbuster trades happen.
When James Harden talked last night after the game, he knew that conversations were escalating with both the Brooklyn Nets and the Philadelphia 76ers. Both teams, that he had great interest.
But I would be remiss to talk about this topic if I didn't mention the player empowerment movement. I mean, Kevin Durant orchestrated part of this trade. He pressured the front office to get James Harden. James Harden pressured the Rockets front office to get this trade done too. Well, we're seeing the state of the Nets today. I mean, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, they just wanted to team up with Harden because they knew they could easily contend for a championship. And the same rationale came in with the Lakers when they acquired Russell Westbrook in yet another blockbuster deal. This included a bunch of players, key role players for the Lakers, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how both the Lakers and Nets weren't able to contend for much in the playoffs.
What they did was they went to the Sam Presti playbook. The Nets got there, said, Philly, get your notebook out. It's going to be this, 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 and this. And they gave up a lot here.
When the Nets saw that there was a crack in their armor, they had to act fast. And what they did was pretty similar to what the Thunder did as soon as they seen Paul George will crest out. Harden was shipped off, but in return they got a bunch of players and a bunch of picks, and the Nets, it looked like they were going towards rebuilding. It really did, but they still had to try to contend for this playoffs.
It's the Brooklyn Nets significantly, and I feel very passionately about that.
Many people agreed with Stephen A, saying the Nets won the trade. The Nets got the best return on investment, and of course Harden was declining and he was dealing with injuries of his own, and during the playoffs it did look like things were going to go towards the Nets' way, but obviously we all know how that series ended up against the Celtics. And Harden, I mean, he went further than Ben Simmons did in the playoffs, and he actually played games for the Sixers. Now the Sixers are looking to retool, with Harden now committed to winning a title next season. Now Harden, he really showed his commitment to the Sixers cause by taking a pay cut, and he even said here that with the injuries he's been sustaining, that he's going to take the summer in order to get better, in order to reach the elite levels that he knows he can be at, and that he proclaims he will be at once he recovers from these said injuries. I mean, Harden, he's serious about this. You could see here things looking different now. The Nets are in a rebuild.
Well, they were a team that I think would have loved to be involved in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. And they made a trade yesterday, giving up 3 first-round picks and a pick swap for DeJounte Murray in San Antonio.
Back to recent times now, DeJounte Murray. This trade shocked me and shocked many others because of how much the Hawks had to give away.
3 unprotected first-round picks for DeJounte Murray.
And so now the Nets are looking at this trade and saying, okay, how much are we getting for KD?
3 unprotected first-round picks for DeJounte Murray. They gave up a lot. 3 first-round picks, 2 of their own. One they have via Charlotte, and also a pick swap in 2026 with San Antonio. What is Kevin Durant worth?
Now, if you're the Hawks, missing out on Kevin Durant to get DeJounte Murray does sound like a bummer. But it may be a blessing in disguise because, man, imagine how much they would have had to give up for KD.
What's San Antonio trying to do?
Yeah, 11 picks now in the next 7 years.
Rebuild, rebuild, rebuild. I'm telling you, more teams are now seeing what Sam Presti is doing, and they're employing the same tactics.
For Utah, listen, this is a team now who've gathered up 6 first-round picks in the last 24 hours.
And boy, did things get worse in terms of the market making no sense at all, man. This Gobert trade was absolutely infuriating.
Timberwolves got Rudy Gobert. In exchange, they gave up Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverly, Leandro Bolmaro, Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt, 2023, 2025 first-round picks, 2026 pick swap, 2027 first-round pick, and a 2029 first-round pick.
Because of how large Gobert's contract is at the moment, the Timberwolves had to amass the biggest cast of throwaways that we've seen just to contend.
Nobody in Utah is like, yeah, we got a whole bunch of great, we got a fit. No, they're not happy.
And of course, it is risky on Utah's part.
What first round pick is Minnesota gonna give them that's gonna be worth the damn if they're making the playoffs every year?
Why does this dude have more faith in the Timberwolves than the average Wolves fan? Now, Sam Presti, we gotta talk about him.
He's really, really, really good. He has a great pace about the game.
Part of why he's so confident in his tactics and his strategies in terms of getting picks, as many picks as he can, is because of his eye for talent. He's able to scout these guys very well, and he's able to pick out the best amongst the best at a consistent pace.
The MVP over there is Sam Presti. He the MVP. I mean, Josh Giddey is great. Sam Presti, I don't understand this guy's eye for talent.
I mean, just look at how he rebuilt the Supersonics, who eventually became the Thunder, to a contender, with the main caveat being he never won a title to show for all this.
And how many titles did they end up with? That's the problem.
How effective is Sam Presti's strategy if what he did initially did not even pan out for him to win a single title? And the Raptors and Lakers, they both did the opposite and ended up winning a title the first year they did it.
Even if you do everything right, if he catches lightning in a bottle once again and drafts future MVPs, why are they going to stay in Oklahoma City? You have an owner who doesn't want to go into the luxury tax. You have a small market where, clearly it doesn't have the creature comforts that some other places do in this league. And if you're Sam Presti, you have a tough time getting free agents to come there too.
And not to mention how Kevin Durant was treated after he left Oklahoma City. I mean, that must have hurt their brand.
That stuff must have been fake, what they were doing. The organization, the GM, I haven't talked to any of those people, even had a nice exchange with those people since I left.
But at least if you're the Thunder, you're building towards potentially winning, whereas the Knicks, I mean, they're just losing with no goal in sight.
They stink. And I'm not talking about basketball. I'm talking about the organization.
Now, if you're a team like the Utah Jazz, you see a team like the Knicks so desperately in need of star players. And that desperation, I mean, for any GM, that's easy prey.
And right now, I'm very disappointed with Leon Rose. And I'm not talking basketball.
But even the Knicks are not as stupid as what teams like the Jazz think they are, okay? The reason why this market is beginning to stall and now it's not making any more sense. We're seeing it with this situation at hand.
Kissing a guy's butt is not going to keep him, because guess what? When you're talking about these kind of talents, 29 other teams in the NBA would be more than happy to smooch up to their posteriors.
It's been known from the media personnel for a long time now that Donovan Mitchell, at any point, if he sees a crack in the armor, he would want out of Utah.
This is the talk around the league. It's not being pulled out of thin air that Donovan Mitchell is going to ask out of his contract. So I just said, would you like to address that?
Not out of his contract, but...
I'm sorry.
Out of Utah. He would like to play somewhere else.
And this just creates a perfect storm because a Donovan Mitchell, a star player, an all-star caliber player, people are going to give a lot to get him, and it's clear he wants out.
So I asked him, hey, do you want out? Like, are you going to ask out? That's what the talk in the league's been.
If you're Donovan Mitchell, you see Quinn Snyder not being a coach anymore. You see Rudy Gobert getting traded. This team is clearly headed towards a rebuild. Are you willing to stay another year in this team knowing that, yeah, you won't be able to control your destiny if you stay any longer?
You've got 3 years left on your contract, on a max contract. You need a week to think about whether you're going to ask to be traded.
Yeah, you know what he didn't say? Yeah,
No.
I want to be a Utah Jazz. No, you don't.
Now Donovan Mitchell's value has decreased from the years of the bubble. But let's not forget what people were calling him during that time.
I think the second coming, a 2.0 version of Dwayne Wade, has arrived.
Dwayne Wade, sure.
That is what I believe when I look at Donovan Mitchell.
The egregious comparisons to Dwayne Wade did not stop at 2020. They further escalated in 2021 when he was dominating the first round and against Memphis, averaging over 30 points a game in that series. It was obvious to everyone.
He's little Dwayne Wade 2.0.
But is he though? Like, I wouldn't say he is, but during that time it was such a popular talking point. Even Dwayne Wade himself reinforced it during the bubble.
Who's the young player in the league right now that reminds you the most of yourself?
Donovan Mitchell.
And with many people saying that Donovan Mitchell proved Shaq wrong when he said he couldn't carry himself to the next level, it was obvious that at that point his value was at its highest that it's ever been, and now his value is only going to decrease from here on out if he stays in Utah. So is it no surprise that Donovan Mitchell wants out and now the Jazz are pressured to do something about it?
They had listened to trade offers for star guard Donovan Mitchell.
The Knicks, they sucked in 2019. In 2020, they were trying to pick things up with Thibodeau being the coach now. In 2021, they ended up making the playoffs. And now that they suck just like in 2019, they're looking for a player to save them.
The Knicks have been planning and scheming for about 2 or 3 years now to try to get Donovan Mitchell. He's all part of the Leon Rose friends and family plan.
Of course, this is clear tampering. I mean, obviously, Donovan Mitchell is being represented by the same agency that Leon Rose ran a couple of years ago. And of course, that same agency orchestrated the whole LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh to Miami deal. So Utah knows they got a sucker in the Knicks.
And I think what Danny Ainge is doing, he did it when he was in Boston, when he got rid of Kevin Garnett and he got rid of Paul Pierce. You see a lot of teams, Oklahoma City has done it. That's what Danny Ainge is trying to do.
And it's no coincidence. These two, Danny Ainge and Sam Presti, they've crossed paths before. They've done this before. The Supersonics trade, Ray Allen, both teams ended up winning in that trade when you look back at it. Because of course, Danny Ainge was in a win-now situation. He got KG in another trade where he had to give up a lot to Minnesota, and they ended up paying off with a championship the next year. It's pretty obvious to me, Danny Ainge with Utah is currently looking for a sucker that's gonna fall for his bait, just like the Nets fell for the bait of KG, Paul Pierce, and Jason Terry. Oh my goodness. Now, of course, Danny Ainge, man, he's a pretty ruthless guy. I mean, we can clearly see it with how he traded IT to get Kyrie. I mean, yeah, this was insane. I mean, it's obviously sad looking back because of how IT's career ended essentially then. And the way Kyrie left the Cavs, I mean, that basically shaped up the next couple of years leading up to today, where he's currently looking to leave the Nets. And obviously, I mean, Kyrie Irving, it was an investment from the Celtics part. The Celtics were trying to win it all, and it was a gamble to go through. And of course, the KG, Paul Pierce, Jason Terry trade, look at how it paid off for the Celtics. They ended up getting Jaylen Brown in 2016, and they're getting Jason Tatum in 2017. I mean, this is obviously what the Utah Jazz now, with Danny Ainge at the helm, is trying to do with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. But because of how Sam Presti broke the market with Paul George, is it no surprise that now the Jazz are asking for too much?
What I'm hearing from folks who have talked to people with the Jazz in Las Vegas is that they say, listen, we basically got 5 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert. We can get more than that for Donovan Mitchell. 6 first-rounders, 7 first-rounders.
Unfortunately, the Knicks had enough sense in their minds to not take the bait. I mean, this would have been a terrible trade if the Knicks did this. And really, the Utah Jazz, the audacity to even pull this off and offer them this, it just shows you how broken the market is.
And obviously, this is a team, you look what they got back for Gobert. It's picks, swings at young talent on controllable contracts, and financial relief.
And guess what? The Nets are doing the same thing with Kevin Durant. They want the same return. Actually, they may even want 8 picks if it was up to them. Oh my goodness.
The Nets are holding on to that hope that it's still possible that after a couple more months of no movement potentially, that he could come back.
And of course, the likelihood of KD and Kyrie sticking with the Nets next season is getting higher by the day. And Donovan Mitchell, the likelihood of him being in Utah is also very high, because we would have to see a cataclysmic blockbuster trade happen for these guys to leave, because of how broken the market is, because of how unrealistic some of these teams have in terms of the expectation of their returns. And obviously that means the Lakers are going to have to stick with what is the worst contract in history.
I had a team source tell me today specifically what he would like to see done with the roster: trade Russell Westbrook. He told me we got to rip the Band-Aid off to be able to move forward this season.
Westbrook is a byproduct of this broken market. Sam Presti, the same guy that got him his contract that he's still getting paid from to this day. If Presti didn't break the market with the Paul George trade and the Westbrook contract, we wouldn't see any of this play out.
I put a lot of work in. I got a lot of respect in this game. I don't have to hit a benchmark. I shouldn't have to. I earned the right, to be in closing lineups.
He has the audacity to say all of this after putting up one of the worst seasons he's ever had, and after clearly showing that he's not the same player that he was in 2017 at his peak height of his career.
Is the Westbrook trade the worst in Lakers history?
Well, let's go with what Magic Johnson said. If they don't get out of the playing game, it could go down as the worst. I think we'll all say it's the worst.
It's obviously the worst trade when you consider the Nets are trying to get Kyrie Irving out, but they're not even considering much of what the Lakers have to offer, because it's coming with a Westbrook package. No one wants this dumpster fire of a player.
Could trade Russ without getting off a first-round pick. I think they would pounce on.
I'm telling you, if the Lakers found a suitor that would want Russell Westbrook for the deal he's currently in, he would have been traded by now, and it's clear no one wants him.
If they could trade Russ for 2 rotation players, even if they have to take a third player on as salary balance so they don't play, if they can get 2 NBA rotation players, you take it.
The Lakers should consider shutting Westbrook down like the Rockets did with John Wall.
Just guys that you can actually give minutes to that can play with LeBron and probably improve. You would take it.
Because obviously the Lakers, they cannot find a suitor.
I almost would say no matter the contract.
He is less desirable of a player to have on your team than Ben Simmons.
Oh, Russell Westbrook get him a lot. Bricks. Oh, no. Put down there. No, scoring triple-double. Yeah.
But Russell Westbrook, he gets a lot of triple-doubles.
When everybody say he's stat padding, understand, go look at his record, his team's record when he gets a triple-double.
Finally, I can make a response to this video that Jimmy Highroller made months ago.
If you think Russ's triple-doubles are empty stats that don't contribute to winning basketball, you're wrong.
He puts up a graph that he argues shows Westbrook wins games with his triple-doubles, but it actually shows that Westbrook's triple-doubles doubles become less and less valuable as the years go by, with their win rate going lower each season.
So that's an impact whether defense, they win. The winning percentage in those triple doubles is through the roof.
Since 2017, Westbrook has had the same win rate in the playoffs with and without triple doubles.
LeBron, you have no brains if you're going to choose Russell Westbrook.
I can't believe it, folks. Skip was right.
A disaster waiting to happen. The all-time ball hog, a guy who 4 times has led this league in usage rate and 4 other times was second in usage rate because he wants the basketball in his hand.
This all began, of course, with AD going to the Lakers, and obviously further escalated when Paul George was sent to the Clippers in a unprecedented trade that I argue broke the market. To this day, you cannot tell me that this has not just affected the entire NBA. It has. It clearly has. We're seeing players now moving in unprecedented scales. Star players, players that are being paid so much, moving at a level, at a rate that is just increasingly making the market more and more unstable. I mean, you could clearly see it. There's a reason why the market is currently at a stalemate. No one is biting on these ridiculously unrealistic offers that these teams are pulling up with. The Lakers are now saying, okay, we're gonna commit with this big free. We're gonna stick with Russell Westbrook in our team. And obviously, that's just gonna create a whole massive issues, because we all know this Lakers team is not contending for anything meaningful with Russell Westbrook in their lineup. And guess what? The Warriors may win it again, bro. I'm telling you, man. The Warriors, they've proved so many of us wrong. And you can check it out in this video that I talk about Curry. I mean, it really does look like the Warriors are going to just pounce on the league again. SMH.